In this video, I'll show you how to do the capital budgeting techniques in Excel using the handout that I gave you in class. If you haven't gone to class and you need a copy of the handout, it's this one, Capital Budgeting and Cash Flows. And we'll be doing this in Excel. Remember, this is going to be part of your exam, the third exam. This is going to be the take-home part. So if you have this completed before I give you the exam, which will be a handout similar to the one in class, you will have 60 to 70% of the work done. Now in class I did it one way, and I saw some of you working in your computers and you have this done. Since I don't remember exactly what I put all the stuff, all the numbers, this one might be slightly different to the one I did in class, but as long as the result is the same, you have a working model, that's all that matters. Since I have a little more time here, I can maybe make a box with assumptions. It says right here that the price 1 will be 110. Let me zoom in. And then the price will drop after 3 years to it's 120, and the price will drop to 110. Now if you don't have this box with assumptions, you have one like the one we did in class, it's fine, and you can use the one we did in class for the exam. It doesn't matter. And then they tell you here that the company anticipates they're going to lose units of the old model, 50 per year. So units old model, they're going to be 50 units less than before. Now in the handout it says 500, but it's supposed to be 50. And the price of the old model is 85. They tell you that the power mulcher will need $20,000 in net working capital, and this will be the initial net working capital, 20,000. One of the advantages of having this input box is that you can read through the handout, and then you go through all the numbers and you can label, identify them in the model, and that's going to help you to avoid making mistakes. And then they tell you that NWC, net working capital, subsequently will be 15% of your revenues. They tell you that the variable cost per unit is 60, and the fixed cost per year is $20,000. They tell you that the equipment will have a cost of $800,000. It qualifies as a 7-year MAC RS property, and then the equipment will be worth 20%. So we call that salvage value. Will be 20% of the original cost. They tell you that the tax rate the company pays is 34%, and that the cost of capital, or WACC, equals 15%. They also tell you here that this equipment will be installed in a warehouse that the company leases right now for $5,000 per year. So that one right here, warehouse, it's 5,000. Okay. And then they also mention here that the company has spent $10,000 surveying large garden shops, and that's a sunk cost, and so we ignore that one. Now if you want, just to have it right here, I'm going to label this sunk cost equals 10,000, but it will not be used in the analysis. So now I have all the numbers in the handout in Excel, and then right here, this is an 8-year investment. So I'm going to, you can type these numbers, or you can do what I'm doing. copying and dragging, and that's gonna fill out the numbers. If you don't know how to do this, you can simply just type the numbers. And then I'm going to insert a new column here to have more space. And then let's begin with the depreciation. And I'm going to copy from the handout in the property class table at the bottom the 7-year depreciation schedule. Year 1 is 14.29%, 24.49%. It is the same 5, 6, and 7. And the last one is 4.45%. And remember, if you want to make sure that you copy this correctly, you can use that command, sum, and then you select the numbers you want to add, close the parentheses, 100%, so we didn't make mistakes. So now we can calculate the depreciation expense. It equals the $800,000, and I press F4. That's in a Windows PC. To be honest, I don't know what's in a Mac, but if you don't have F4 in your computers, laptops, Mac, you can also do this. You click on the cell times the number you want, and then you can go back, and before you copy the formula, you can manually put a $sign before the letter and one before the numbers. And that's to keep the $800,000 locked. So now we can copy the formula. If we copy this sum right there, then it equals the $800,000. So again, no mistakes right there. And then we can do the pro forma income statement. So we have units, and from the handout they have 3,000, 5,000, 6, and then in class, if you recall or you have your model, I put price here and I put the prices, but since I have the prices right here, I will do the following. I can estimate revenues by doing the following: equals the price, and log that one, times the 3,000, and then we can copy this 3 years, and the following year equals the next price, log that one, time the number of units, a couple more years. So now we have the revenues, and the reason why this is a better setup is if you change this price right here to 130, then the numbers automatically change right here. It makes it easier. You only have to change the price one time. The way we set up this in class, you have to change the price 3 times. And then revenue loss from the units the company will stop selling. They equal the price log times 50 units logged every year, and then we can copy the number, the equation, sorry. And then we have the warehouse loss, which is an opportunity cost, and that one equals the 5,000 right here. It's always that number. Let me zoom out so I don't have to be. There you go. If that happens, you can highlight the columns, double click between one of the two columns, and then it'll make enough space. And then we can now estimate the net revenue. So equals 360,000 minus the revenue loss minus the warehouse equals that. Now we can estimate the variable cost equals the number of units times the 60, log the cell where you have 60, and then fixed cost log and then we can estimate cost of goods sold equals variable plus fixed cost, and then we have depreciation, and they equal those numbers we already estimated, and then we have EBIT. And remember, because we ignore the interest expense, this is equivalent to taxable income, so it's equal to the net revenue minus cost of goods sold minus depreciation. And then taxes equal that number times tax rate log and let me get rid of the decimals. Don't need decimals for this one. There. And then we can estimate net income equals taxable minus taxes. All right, so now we can do the so now let's do the pro forma balance sheet. So pro forma. So we have net working capital in this case, and net working capital today, year 0, it says right there that initially the company will need 20,000, and the following years it will need 15%, and it's always going to be 15, so I'm locking that cell, times the revenues, which is 360,000, and then we can copy the number. Now we can do the estimation of change in net working capital, and today the change is equal to the initial expenditure, and the following year the change equals 54 minus 20,000, 34. And remember that when you see a negative number, it is happening because in this year 4 you need less net working capital than the year before, so the change it's negative, and that means that the project has more cash flow than it needs, so it's a cash outflow for the project, so it becomes a cash inflow to the company, which means it's a cash inflow for the stockholders and the bondholders, the concept of free cash flow. And then we can do here change in fixed assets, or if you want, let's do this fixed assets the same way we did in class. So today the equals the company buys the equipment if it's approved, and then in the last year they're going to sell the equipment for 20% of the original value, and then you have to pay taxes, so we do multiply by 1 minus the tax rate, so the company will net 105,600, and then the change in fixed assets will be equal to that, and the same thing last year. And some of you ask me, so what happened to the change to the years between 1 today and the last one. If you were doing analysis on the whole company, then there will be changes in fixed assets because different divisions of the company buy and sell assets. But this is the analysis on a single project. So that's why they buy equipment today, they sell it in the last year, so there's no change in between. So now we can estimate the operating cash flow of the company, and it equals the EBIT minus the taxes, or you can click on net income, same thing, plus depreciation. Now we can do the estimation of free cash flow. So it equals operating cash flow minus the change in net working capital minus the change in fixed assets. Negative number meaning cash outflow, the company, the project has to spend. And for the following years, those are the free cash flow. And then remember that in the last one, right now I have this as operating cash flow, M27, minus the change in net working capital, minus the change in fixed assets, but because the company is going to sell the equipment, it becomes a positive cash flow. So you modify the equation in the last year. And then NPV equals NPV. Let's click on the WACC, comma, select cash flows, free cash flows 1 through 8, and then plus the initial investment, and so the NPV equals that. And then we say accept because NPV is positive. The IRR equals IRR, and this one is all of them. And then we add 1 decimal, and we say accept because IRR is greater than WACC. It's 16.3 versus 15%. The PI index equals NPV plus the initial investment over the initial investment. The negative are so that we can convert the investment into a positive cash flow, and the PI is a unitless number, so I'm gonna click right here and that's just a number, so 1.04. So accept because PI is greater than 1. Payback. In class, when we did this by hand, and I show you a video for the payback. If you recall, in the integrity lessons, I have a video to calculate payback. So let's do it here in the Excel. So I'm going to insert 1 row here, okay, and let's estimate the cumulative free cash flow. So it's equal to today to that, and the following years it's equal to cumulative cash flow plus the new cash flow, and then we can copy this. You can see that every year Excel is doing the cumulative cash flow the year before plus the new cash flow, and the same thing for the following year. Cumulative cash flow plus the new one, etc. And you can see that the payback happens sometime between years 4 and 5. So the payback will be equal to, just like we did in class before, it is going to be 4 plus what you still have to pay for, which is the 28,543 over, and you have to use a absolute value number, so I put a negative, the cash flow the following year, and this is also just a number, but it's 4.14 years, so that's the payback. if you want, just if you can't see very well, we can do this. Let's copy the number of years right here, and then so if I repeat the payback, it will be equal to, see, it is 4 plus this number over the next one, so 4.14 years. Put here. Now, do you accept or not with the payback? It just depends on the payback the company has as a rule. If it's 3 years, based on payback, you reject. If it's 5 years, then you accept. And then we can do the NPV profile. So we can use 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. I think in class I stop at 25. When do you stop? Since the IRR is 16%, I like to use 2 or 3 numbers under, the IRR, and 4 over the IRR. And let me insert, so I can put here R, and this is NPV. So let's repeat the equation, NPV, and then instead of using that 15% we used before, is the 0%, comma, let's select the values 1 through 8. This is very common in the exam. My students, they select the cumulative cash flow numbers, and Excel will give you a number, but it's going to be the wrong one. Make sure you select free cash flows. Okay? And it's always those numbers, so I log those 2 cells plus the initial investment, and it's also always that one. So log the cell and copy the equation. You can see that since 15% it's less than the IRR, 16%, the NPV is still positive. At 20%, because it's greater than the 16.3% IRR, the NPV becomes negative. And then we can select that, go to insert, scatter plot, and you can use this one or that one, and even this one, just different presentations. Don't use this one because it doesn't connect each point with a line. And so that will be the NPV profile. If you want, you can also do this. Design, add element, access title, the horizontal, and this is the discount rate or cost of capital. And you see this point right here where the blue line crosses the $0 line. That's the IRR right there, which is what, 16.3%. Let me zoom out, put this one over here, out of the way. And then in Excel, you can do things like this. You can select your box with all the inputs, and you can put a border like that. Looks better. You can also do that selection, and if you click on merge, then it'll put pro forma income statement across the middle of the table, and then you can maybe put a border underneath like that. We can do the same thing with the balance sheet. If you can't see the change in fixed assets, you can double click here, so you can make the column the exact width. That's it. So the exam is going to look very much like this one. Again, if you have this and it's working, you have 60% of the take-home part of the exam.